Night Shift Whispers.
The sun was setting. Halloween decorations on an old house on the edge of a deserted neighborhood began to wave invitingly to anyone who wanted to come in. Many of the neighboring houses on the left and right had been empty for a long time, their yards covered in a thick layer of dry leaves. The atmosphere was already so eerie even before the sun had completely set. The perfect place to be the backdrop for a mysterious Halloween party. I didn't know who organized the party, but the invitation was sent through a WhatsApp chain message. They just said that the host was one of our college friends, using his uncle's house that was rarely used. Most of us didn't care about the behind the scenes of the party, so as long as the party was fun, we didn't want to question who the organizer actually was. The invitation was not so many, only about 20 people. It seems that this party is somewhat private. The dress code was anything in mask, so it was almost impossible to recognize each other. This provides an interesting element of surprise as we try to guess who is present. The party went on as usual, like any Halloween party for young people. It was quite fun until more than half of the event. At 11 p.m., some people were already preparing to leave the event when suddenly it rained very heavily. We were stuck. There was no choice for the time being except to continue the party with conversation, snacks, and drinks until the rain subsided later. When some people started to get a little drunk, someone took the initiative to hold a truth or dare game with slightly different rules. In a glass container, many small rolls of paper were prepared. Whoever got their turn had to take one of those rolls at random, then give the paper to anyone to read the question written on it. Then they had to answer honestly or drink a strange drink that had been prepared by the committee. A glass bottle was spun. For the first round, the end of the bottle was immediately directed at me. I took the scroll and someone near me read the question. Did you attend the Halloween party last year that was held at Anne's grandmother's empty house? There was no dilemma with that question, so I answered casually, yes. Then, it was my turn to make the next round. I spun the bottle. The end of the bottle pointed to someone in a skull costume across from me. He took one of the scrolls, then answered a question that was also easy, namely, do you know who was present at the party last year? The man in the skull costume answered, no. The Halloween party last year also had the same theme, anything in mask, so no one knew exactly who came. The third question sounded like a continuation of the previous question. That is, do you know if one or two people disappeared from the Halloween party last year before the event ended? I started to feel strange. The scrolls were taken randomly, but why did the order of the questions seem to be arranged based on a planned list? More than that, the game seemed to have been prepared by someone specifically to reopen past events. At first, all the questions were related to last year's Halloween party. Then, suddenly, the question shifted to a very uncomfortable direction. Do you know that Joanna actually came to Anne's party that night? Why did the question suddenly turn to Joanna? There was something wrong with this truth or dare game. Everyone was still struggling to forget about it. Joanna had died the previous year on Halloween night. Her body had been found near the train tracks in a horrific state. The train tracks weren't too far from the party venue. But Olivia had testified that Joanna had declined to go to Anne's party because she had a date with Sam, her boyfriend. Sam himself had claimed to have waited for Joanna at the coffee shop where they were supposed to meet, but Joanna had never shown up until the cafe closed. And to this day, the mystery of Joanna's death remained a mystery. It was terrifying, really. It was as if someone knew something about Joanna's death and they had been waiting a year to reopen the case. The next question was even more uncomfortable, but also intriguing on the other hand. And shocking. Did you know that Joanna's best friend often flirted with Sam to cheat on her? Her best friend? That must have been Olivia. The question was perfectly read out when a girl in a black dress costume, who we suspected was Olivia, got her turn to answer. I noticed her hand shaking as she poured the drink she had to drink as a consequence of not answering the difficult question. My speculation went wild. Was Joanna's death really related to Olivia? Strangely, the next spins of the bottle were more likely to point to Olivia, as if it had been planned. And all of the questions were very clearly designed to torture her. Did you know that Joanna's best friend actually harbored a very evil grudge against her? Olivia looked stressed by the incriminating questions. She had already drunk several glasses of the strange drink, and she seemed to be getting drunk. So, ignoring the fact that everyone would be more suspicious of her, she impulsively shouted, "Who are you actually who designed this stupid game? Did you also design the whole party? Don't be a coward. Show yourself, you bastard." Everyone fell silent. The situation was really very uncomfortable. Eventually, everyone agreed to stop the game. As someone was cleaning up the bottle and box of small scrolls, the bottle suddenly spun on its own. It spun quickly, as if it were being moved by a great force. A few people gasped in surprise. Then, just as suddenly, the spinning stopped, and the end of the bottle pointed to me. Yeah, it sucks, but I was the one who was chosen by whatever it was to continue the turn. At first, I just stood there, looking at my friends one by one, hoping for some kind of clue about what I should do next. But, to my surprise, they told me to take a scroll from the glass container. I trembled. To be honest, I didn't want to, but I was afraid something bad would happen to me if I didn't. With my heart pounding, I took a scroll and opened it. On it, there was a message written in a creepy font, in red ink, that said, "Hey Olivia, are you ready to face your sins?" I read the message out loud, stammering with fear. And as I expected, everyone else was frozen in the same reaction. But Olivia's reaction was beyond anyone's expectations. She was angry, and she started yelling at the organizer of the event to show their face. Then, she went up to each of the party guests and forced us all to take off our masks. Suddenly, someone laughed from the corner of the room. The laugh was soft, but it was terrifying. It was a woman's voice that I didn't recognize. She was wearing a black hooded costume, complete with a hood. Her wavy blonde hair hung down past her shoulders. Before Olivia could approach her and rip off the mask that covered her face, the figure darted out the side door. In an instant, the figure had disappeared. Olivia chased after her. She ran through the rain, following the figure. Worried that something bad would happen to them, a few of us decided to follow them in a car. But even after hours of searching, until everyone who was still at the party was mobilized to join the search, we couldn't find them in the neighborhood or its surroundings. The next morning, we got one shocking piece of news. Olivia's body was found near the train tracks not far from where Joanna was found the year before. Her condition was more or less the same, horrific. Even more shocking, the old house where we held the party was actually a vacant lot with the remains of a building overgrown with weeds and shrubs. Several families who still lived there said that there had never been a party or a group of young people there, or anything like that. Their neighborhood was quiet and dark on Halloween night. And as I expected, the WhatsApp chain message, when we checked, had mysteriously disappeared.